So 2 juries and 3 appellate judges ruled Lucy Letby guilty beyond reasonable doubt.
She perverted her learning to inflict harm, grief, and death.
You have coldly denied any responsibility for any wrongdoing.
Is it possible that British nurse Lucy Letby, serving life for killing premature babies, is actually innocent?
The new lawyers for serial baby killer Lucy Letby will say that they will reveal new medical evidence this morning, which they say could cast doubt over her convictions.
Dr. Dowie Evans, the man whose medical evidence helped convict her, well, he doesn't think so.
She's the worst female serial killer in English history.
Do you have any fear that you have got this wrong?
No. She was convicted of 7 murders and several attempted murders, and the evidence was overwhelming and consistent.
You're pointing a finger at someone when that person is totally innocent.
Defence barrister Mark MacDonald represents Lucy Letby in what has become the UK's most controversial case, going head-to-head with Dr. Evans, the prosecution's star expert witness.
No direct evidence against Lucy Letby that she was seen to do any harm against any baby. No CCTV or forensics or whatever, nothing.
Nobody saw her harm any of these babies. These people need to go out a bit more. This is what happens with murders.
Mark is actually fighting for a new trial for his client, claiming that fresh evidence can prove that Letby has suffered an unthinkable miscarriage of justice.
I've sort of drawn an analogy of someone who has been convicted and is in prison, and we found new DNA to say that that person didn't do it. That's how powerful this fresh evidence is.
Is that right? You're not overblowing this, are you?
No, I don't think so. Look, the evidence that went before the jury has been demolished now by the fresh evidence, and we need to get back to the Criminal Court of Appeal.
The first pillar of the defence is to dismantle the powerful circumstantial evidence shown at Letby's trials. Claims she stalked her tiny victims' parents on social media, stole confidential hospital notes as grim trophies, and in her own words, seemingly confessed.
Does that not point to guilt?
So, the circumstantial evidence has little weight. She took home with her what are referred to as handover notes, so not medical records.
Was it not hundreds?
It was 250 of them, to be precise. And she explained, you know what, yes, they were there, they shouldn't have been there. I'm a bit of a hoarder when it comes to pieces of paper. Yes, it was wrong. Does that mean that she killed these babies? No, it does not.
Has Lucy Letby explained to you why she looked up the families of these babies who were sent her to this investigation?
You've got to remember that on this unit, some of the babies that she was looking after would be on that unit for weeks, possibly months. She would get to know the family. She also did numerous Facebook searches for families and babies that did not feature on this indictment. She didn't just look up a certain few, she looked up loads.
These notes written by Letby were compelling to the jury, but according to Mark, do not constitute a confession. He said rather than an admission of something that she had done, it spoke to how she was made to feel after being taken off the ward pending investigation, a stream of consciousness encouraged by a counsellor. But as the prosecution's star witness, it was Dr. Dowie Evans' medical evidence that counted most at trial. And it was his opinion that Lucy Letby coldly and calculatingly killed babies by injecting them with air. Others she poisoned with insulin.
It wasn't a confession note because part of it also exonerated her.
I bet you'd prefer she hadn't written them, though.
If you ran a trial on those notes, she'd be sitting here next to me.
It does not confirm the murder, but it does explain that we are dealing with a very, very unusual personality and someone who, in my opinion, should be reviewed in detail by an appropriately trained forensic psychiatrist.
But as the prosecution's star witness, it was Dr. Dowie Evans' medical evidence that counted most at trial. And it was his opinion that Lucy Letby coldly and calculatingly killed babies by injecting them with air. Others she poisoned with insulin.
So we had babies who were just dying unexpectedly. There was only one nurse on duty, and that was Lucy Letby.
You have to accept, of course, that just because she was there does not mean that she murdered those babies.
That is absolutely correct. The evidence of criminality was based on the clinical information, how these babies died, and the accumulation of information gathered by the police that placed her at the scene of the crime.
Letby would be convicted of murdering a total of 7 babies and trying to murder 7 more. But now Letby's defence barrister, Mark MacDonald, has brought together an international panel of 14 medical experts, and their conclusions has literally turned the case on its head. So,
what did you discover?
What jumped out at us, absolutely jumped out at us, were these very, very plausible alternative explanations that did not involve malfeasance of any kind, did not involve wrongdoing of any kind.
So, according to leading UK neonatologist Professor Nina Modi, there was no murder or even attempted murder.
If it wasn't Lucy Letby, what happened?
These babies were vulnerable, they were frail, and they suffered from a range of conditions, some of which were quite common in neonatal intensive care, but some of which were very rare indeed. But they found themselves in what we call a level 2 neonatal unit. That's not a neonatal unit that is staffed or equipped to cope with babies with this degree of illness and vulnerability. And yet that is where they were cared for.
These babies died or fell ill through natural causes or through lack of proper medical care. Was that your conclusion?
That was our conclusion, that's right.
Well, if you found that there was no wrongdoing, that there was no murder, then that's a miscarriage of justice, isn't it? If you've got a woman serving 15 whole life terms in jail.
It's certainly a reason to re-examine the case.
So if the panel is correct, no air was injected into the newborns, and Lucy Letby isn't a killer. That would also mean that she didn't poison 2 babies with insulin, a charge which she was found guilty of attempted murder. The insulin evidence was seen as the smoking gun at the trial, and even Letby admitted under cross-examination the babies were poisoned, just not by her. But now her legal team has attacked the insulin tests, claiming it's been proven they can yield false positives.
Those tests are wholly unreliable and should never have been put before the jury. The evidence that went before the jury has been demolished now by the fresh evidence, and we need to get back to the Criminal Court of Appeal.
That panel says it finds no case of murder for any of the babies that died and no intentional harm against the babies who collapsed. What is your response to their conclusion?
I think that the collective opinions of the panel is about as weak a group of opinions that I've ever seen.
Coming up on part 3, while the experts fight it out, police are closing in on even more suspicious baby deaths on Letby's watch.